And we are day after the unbelievable game in Tuscaloosa. Pat Forde was there. Ross Dellinger was there, but he's not here. He's got travel issues, so we didn't want to wait.
I think Ross couldn't handle it. It was too much for him last night.
It's too exciting.
Overcome.
Too exciting. Yep. It was an epic game. So producer Joe DeLeon is stepping in. He's the Travis Hunter of this podcast. He's producing and hosting.
Now, I don't know if I'm as athletic as Travis Hunter. I'm not going to pretend that I was as a former college long snapper. Definitely can't touch what he does, but we'll see. We'll see if we can live up to that hype. Already setting some high expectations here, Dan.
Two-way star for the Colorado Buffs and possible top 10 pick at two different positions, or long snapper for the URI Rams.
I've seen no evidence that Travis Hunter can long snap, so I think Joe's got that.
That is a great point. Very good point.
Well done there, Pat. Yeah, I didn't think that either. Guess what? We're going to talk some Travis Hunter and see you at this pod.
Sure are.
At least that's on the rundown. Joe normally has to produce this show that veers off course of our meager rundown to begin with. Now he gets to participate in the mayhem. So welcome. He also does a Hack City pod with our old producer, Sean Anderson. So if you want to hear, if you like Joe, you can listen to that too. But right. Look, Bama 41, Georgia 34. I'm sure everybody saw the game. I mean, it looked like an ass kicking. Bama just looks unbelievable. People are going, oh my God, what happened to the Georgia program? They're not good at anything like they used to, except racing cars fast. And then Georgia off the mat, shows some grit, gets some dog in you, comes back against all odds, takes the lead. And then Jalen Milroe hits Ryan Williams on the next play. 13-second scoring drive, 75 yards, incredible play. Ryan Williams. The 17-year-old. I think that was our cold open. How many times are they going to mention he's 17?
Apparently that must have been beaten to death on the broadcast, huh? Which, of course, we didn't hear in the press box. But, I tweeted after that touchdown, age 17 or whatever, and people are like, yeah, we know. That's all we keep hearing about. I was like, oh, okay.
You can't even vote. Okay. What was it? Colt McCoy, and who was his roommate? Now I'm forgetting. It was beaten in our head so long. Remember he had his roommate? I think it was Colt McCoy. Somebody and their roommate. They just, every time there was a play, their roommates.
Oh, yes. Jordan.
Whatever.
Jordan.
Finally, I forgot. Thank you. Great. They lived, is it that unusual for football players to live in the same house? Okay. Anyway, Ryan Williams can't even vote. 17. Incredible play. Jalen Milroe, 27 of 33 for 374. Anyway, Georgia comes back down. Xavier Brown, another freshman for Bama, makes an incredible, great interception, great play, picking off Carson Beck. A little underthrown. I think Carson will want that one back. Anyway, incredible game. Pat, you were there. What happened?
Whoo! A lot happened. That was actually one of the first things Kalen DeBoer said when he came in his post-game interview. Well, a lot happening here. He's like, yeah, a lot. Absolutely spectacular start to the game by Alabama. They were totally locked in, knew exactly what they wanted to do, executed, played with a fury, and Georgia was not ready for it. First time, really, I can remember seeing a Kirby Smart team that just flat wasn't ready to play. And it was shocking. Jalen Milroe was awesome. Carson Beck was terrible. The Georgia plan looked terrible. The Georgia tackling was terrible. And as you were saying, Dan, the entire storyline, the narrative was written in stone, and it was starting to be written on this very laptop that I'm now doing this show on. I was 8 paragraphs into lauding Kalen DeBoer. Nick, what's his name? Don't even remember who the last guy was. And then all of a sudden, it's like incrementally, possession here, possession there. Yeah, they're getting closer, but they can't do it. Can they? No way. And then Beck just kept slinging and brought him back. And both teams throwing bombs. A lot of deep shots by strong-armed, good quarterbacks to fast, contested ball catching receivers. And all of a sudden they're winning. And the place that I will say, the press box at Bryant-Denny now is kind of situated above the visiting fans. And it sounded like Sanford Stadium for a while there. I mean, they were loud and going crazy, and the Alabama fans were just in shock. And then all of a sudden, one play, one of the greatest like catch and runs I've ever seen. You know how it is where some guys just move differently. Superior athletes, like truly gifted athletes, can move and do things differently than other people, even other good athletes. And that looked like Ryan Williams on that play. The catch, the spin to the sideline, took 8 strides by my count, and they started to converge on him, and he just kind of stops and does this ballet pirouette, and they run into each other, and he's gone. I mean, he's 17, by the way, but that was unfriggin'
Hey, can he vote? Can he vote?
I'm told no.
What?
That's what I'm told.
Okay.
Voting laws are fungible, though, it seems these days. So you never know.
You know, we'll see what works.
Maybe you'll get an exception after the way that he played in that game. But I feel like with that performance and the hype for Ryan Williams is certainly warranted. I don't know how anyone could come away from that not thinking that Alabama is the top team right now. I saw that the coaches poll came out and Texas was number 1, which kind of felt a little bit lazy. The big thing coming into the season for Alabama that I think a lot of people were worried about, and even Kalen DeBoer, like he even said he wasn't really sure what to expect with the secondary when he talked about it this offseason. And we see that Xavier Brown and Damani Jackson, 2 young players, a freshman, a sophomore, make huge turnover plays to keep them within that game, to set them up for important situations, and more importantly, Xavier Brown closes out the game with the interception that he has. The fact that they're able to completely overlook any of those potential weaknesses that they could have had, I feel like that this team is super balanced. And it all comes down to what's going to make them so dangerous through the remaining stretch of this year is if Jalen Milroe looks as confident as he does in that game every single week, he's like a completely different player from last season. He looks so composed, so steady. It is a 180 from what Tommy Rees did to him last year, and he felt just so robotic. It felt like he didn't have that just same quick reaction thinking. And it's like almost watching Jaden Daniels from last year, but with a better defense and a whole more well-rounded team. This Alabama team, and maybe it's a little bit too reactionary just to say that they feel like the best team in the country right now, but even though they let them come back, even though they let Georgia come back, I don't know how you can't take that away from this.
Excellent job, Joe. Excellent job. See that?
Excellent. Yeah.
Rookie of the year.
He rightfully stabbed at the coaches poll, which is actually the laziest.
It is lazy.
One of the laziest things in football.
It's terrible.
Passive-aggressive, subtle shot at Notre Dame as a Notre Dame fan, hitting Tommy Rees. There was a lot there. This was excellent work, Joe.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Way to step up.
Yeah. Ross who? Who? I agree, though. I'll tell you who I thought Jalen Milroe looked like last night. It wasn't Jaden Daniels. It was Cam Newton. I don't think he's as good as Cam Newton. I've said Cam Newton to me is the most dominant college football player I ever saw because he took like an 8-win team from Auburn and won a national title. That one season, he was unstoppable. But I think Kirby Smart said after the game, like they may have Alabama might have the best running back in the country in Jalen Milroe, and he's also throwing passes.
Yeah.
So, he ran for 117, a pair of 2 TDs, and completed 27 of 33. And so I thought he's got that size that that's why he kind of reminds me more of Cam Newton, that just physical size where you're like, oh my goodness, like, how do you stop him when he's making those runs on short yard? Like he gets out, it's like cornerback or like a defensive back trying to make a play on him. He's just not physically capable of of delivering the hit. He played absolutely brilliantly last night. And if he's going to play like that, I agree. Alabama's going to be especially in this offense. But you have a whole different offense. You saw it. It was really exciting. You saw it early. Georgia's problem was they made this amazing comeback too quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, I remember they scored with like what was it, 2:30 left or whatever. And I'm like,
Yeah.
because if you watched Washington last year, and I know a lot of people did not watch their regular season, they kind of jumped out of nowhere. But like every single game, I felt like, was a lunacy like this.
Well, I've got something for you on that.
All right, go ahead.
If you're replacing Nick Saban, you need to be perfect, right? And here's the one thing that has become a little bit of a history with Kalen DeBoer. Now, they've won all these games, but twice last year against Oregon, they had late double-digit leads, and Oregon came back and nearly beat them. Missed a field goal in Seattle, had a chance also in the Pac-12 championship game. Washington had a double-digit lead on Texas in the Sugar Bowl, college football playoff semifinal. Had to sweat it out down to 3 throws into the end zone on the last possession. And they had a 28-point lead last night and fell behind and then needed an interception at the end zone to seal the game. So what I have seen from Kalen DeBoer teams in big games, they're ready, brother. Woo! They come out with a package, and they know what they're going to do, and they're confident, and they execute. 60 minutes is a little bit of an issue, finishing games. Now, again, they won them, but with some white-knuckle moments getting there.
I feel like what was not talked about enough, like the people, the real ball knowers knew this offseason that DeBoer should be categorized as the best game preparation coach in the country right now. Like the way that what you just talked about there, Pat, the way that every single time that they've had one of these huge games, they've always come out firing. Like I can't remember the last time a Washington team or now an Alabama team, maybe the South Florida game and they were dealing with injuries, that they've come out flat. You know, they're always ready to go. On the Georgia side of things, I'm kind of curious, like your guys' thought on like what held them back in the first half, because as much praise as they deserve for fighting back and having really good team chemistry and just staring down adversity and all the coach speak that you hear, I feel like what held them back so much is that like they just decided not to run the ball. I don't know what Mike Bobo's fear of running the ball in the first half of these games, it happened against Kentucky too. It feels like he sees that he has this first round quarterback and he thinks all he has to do is just let him drop back and throw the ball. But that's not Carson Beck. And that kind of killed them. And that dug them into this deficit. They've got a great back and ETN. And when they leaned on him, they got back into the football game. It's so weird that Bobo is doing all this after what was a huge season for them last year.
Yeah, that was, that was wild to watch them. I mean, they came out and they threw the ball. I think it was the first 5 plays in a row, and I think maybe even the first 8 or something. And they absolutely refused to run the ball for the longest time, even in times when just a little bit of game management, like I thought when they were backed up near their own goal line in the end of the first half, and there's not much time on the clock, but like just get out of the half. You're going to get the kickoff for the second half. Drop back, throw, incomplete. Drop back, throw, incomplete. Drop back, intentional grounding, safety. You know, I was like, just stop. Just play a little bit of Georgia football, run the ball a little bit, and then regroup at halftime. I did. I thought their offensive play calling was very quizzical at times.
You believe in this line? Is it because they're worried about the offensive line?
I think so. The injury to Tate Ratledge is a big one for them. Guard, he's a gigantic human being, and he's out. And I guess they don't feel very good about everyone else. I mean, look, like Kirby Smart's not an idiot. I think he would much prefer to run the ball 45, 50 times a game if he could. So I don't think this is, like him just saying, we're just going to chuck it. I think that he's concerned about the line, but you've got to, you've got to be able to have a little bit more balance than they've had in a couple of these big games here.
So one of the things that, the game was really exciting, and I think the ratings will be enormous. And it's one of those games too, where like, they'll never really know how many people watch because it got so exciting that it's the game where you're at a sports bar, you're at a restaurant, every bar, every place in the country now has TVs. Like everyone starts watching, right? Like it was just one of the best college games you're ever going to see. Super exciting, great environment, all that. And this was the kind of game that the playoff was supposedly would make meaningless. And it might as well be a Jaguar Panther game, 1 o'clock slate, October 11th or something like that. Right.
Right.
Yeah, no. Okay. It's college football. And as long as you have that supercharged environment and you have the history between these teams, I don't care if they play 3 times, which they might.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, with a 4-team playoff, this game could still be redone. With a 2-team playoff, we saw LSU and Alabama rematch. So it's not the 12-teamer that does this. That said, the belief is just, Georgia, they're just both in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. Probably. Okay. Georgia's got that nice win over Clemson, but look at Georgia just got by Kentucky. Incredible comeback last night, but they were getting their doors blown off by Alabama. They still go to Texas, to Ole Miss, and I know, but still. And they still play Tennessee. Like, are we sure they're going to win 2 of those 3? Are we sure they couldn't lose all 3 of those? Because then there's no SEC championship game. And if you lose another one, there's no SEC championship game to bail you out with another and then they're sitting at the end of the year going, we're 8-4, but we beat Clemson. Does that get us in? Like, I know everyone just wants to say everybody's in. Not so fast, my friend. There's going to be a lot of heat now. They're walking a tightrope at this point until next game's at Texas. They win that, sure, but they're not in any position where they're just like, yeah, we're good. We got this.
No, we're talking 7 at-large spots, and there's a lot of teams in the SEC, and there might well be a lot of them in the Big Ten as things start to pare down there. There is no way that Georgia can just shrug off losing that and shrug off losing another and say, yeah, we're fine. You get to 9-3, iffy. You get to 8-4, oh boy. It's so that and they've been fallible, clearly. They were hot garbage for a lot of that game last night, and they were somewhat fortunate to beat Kentucky. So they've got a lot of proving to do. So one other thing, I wanted to make one other point on Ryan Williams, who he maybe kind of reminds me of. You got to be old to appreciate this, but Lynn Swann, who could body control, contested catches, falling down, juggling, sideline, whatever. Just the ability to make hard things look really graceful and easy. That's my early comp on the 17-year-old. Did you know he's 17?
Wow. That is that is exactly it. The gracefulness of Lynn Swann, right? They play the NFL films would play like the symphony and was that one in the Super Bowl? He bobbles it
against Dallas. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That really
he bobbles it and he's falling down and catches it.
He doesn't even look like he's going that fast.
No.
He made a joke last night, like it was in slow motion when he did that spin move, that catch, and then the spin. It was a very, look, we're not going to, this is a pack show, so we wouldn't get to this probably any other way. Like, he isn't even the best freshman receiver. Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, let me just give 20 seconds on this guy.
Oh my
Holy
God.
crap.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, as good as Ryan Williams is, Jeremiah Smith's better. Jeremiah Smith is unbelievable. Ohio State had Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith, Najigba, Chris Olave, Maserati Marv Harrison. This guy's better.
Yeah.
Holy
his
cow.
Start to the season, it's insane.
He's incredible, right? So we're going to have plenty of time. Ohio State's like sleeper cell right now. They ain't playing anybody. But this guy's incredible. But you look at him play and you're like, oh my Lord, look at this. This is an athlete. This is a receiver. I can see why he was when you're a receiver and you're number 1 recruit overall, I'm always like, really? Right. Like a receiver? But I remember he was the number 1 overall recruit last year. And I was kind of skeptical. At least 24/7's composite. But then I was like, they're not usually wrong down in Miami.
Yeah.
Like there's the scouts who know Miami talent. He's from Miami Gardens. He's going to Ohio State. They're not usually, they've seen it. And whew. So anyway, that is one type of receiver. This again, you're very right. Ryan Williams is and he's only 17.
How many more times are we going to hear that, by the way? Not on this show. I'm just saying in the broadcasts, it's like
all of them. All of them. I mean,
oh my!
I think that because of social media, there'll be like a bad
blowback.
You don't want to be that guy getting roasted. It is an interesting fact, although it really doesn't matter.
No, but like I've never seen somebody his age do this. Never. You know,
well,
I mean, it's very rare that we get 17-year-olds in college.
We got a 29-year-old guy playing at Miami. I mean,
we have multiple generations out here.
It's my uncle. Alabama still has at Tennessee, Mizzou, at LSU, and at Oklahoma. So they got an interesting slate. It's the thing about the SEC, man.
Oof.
You add Texas and Oklahoma, and you just make things. This game would be very different a year ago.
Yeah,
very different a year ago. But game was fantastic, no doubt, and sure the ratings are great. This is why we love college football, and no matter how many times they tell you the sport is doomed and dead and horrible, no, it isn't. Relax.
Yeah,
we'll get to
stunningly.
I'll get to some more relax in a minute, but I want to do this Friday night play. End of the Miami game. Virginia Tech plays a whale of a football game. They look ready to upset Miami. Cam Ward leads a terrific comeback. Really exciting game. Virginia Tech is driving down the field. It's sort of a hot mess. Whatever. They get a last second play, 3 seconds left. Kyron Drones, their quarterback, Virginia Tech, launches this like rainbow jump shot type thing.
Yeah.
It's like he threw it out of
rain-making pop fly.
Threw it all the way out of the stadium and then down and goes for the Daquan Felton's like 6'5", and he just, that's it, free bound. It was a really good pass for a Hail Mary because usually the Hail Marys come in too hot. But when you only got 30 yards, he grabs it. He doesn't grab it. The lights are off. There's no play. Miami's celebrating. Then they reverse. They say he caught it. Then it's a 10-minute review. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. No play. No good. ACC says during the review process of the last play, it was determined that the loose ball was touched by a Miami player while he was out of bounds, which makes it an incomplete pass and immediately ends the play. Also, we need as much playoff revenue as possible. And I'm sorry. That was not in there.
You weren't the only person adding that to the statement.
They go to the control center in Charlotte. You see those guys? There's like 4 guys. There's like 40 TVs. Like, how many TVs you need?
I've been in that control thing in Charlotte. It's a huge, really nice, impressive room. But that was my thought exactly. It was like, this looks like NASA.
Yeah, you talking astronauts?
We're overdoing it here.
Get those guys back. They're floating around up there. Pat, was it the right call?
I guess. I don't know. It's a bummer because it was an incredible play. But Virginia Tech bollocks their clock management was horrendous. First half, second half, both. Brent Pry, my God, what are you doing? But as far as the actual play, is probably the right call. Miami, they've got talent and they do some really impressive things, but they also do some dumb things. A lot of mistakes by Cam Ward. I mean, he had some phenomenal plays, but was it 2 interceptions and a fumble? And all of them were very important.
3 sacks. And then he had some wild plays that turned out, like this little push pat. I mean, it's hard to sack too.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah, where he ducked 2 sacks and then threw the ball out there. He's short. And so that was his advantage on that play. I think, you're coming in thinking you're going to hit a 6'3", 6'4" guy. He's listed 6'1", probably not.
Proper call, Joe?
I think it was. I was in a Hoboken bar with Sean of all
the control room. That's
Sean.
The real control room. Just forget the control center in Charlotte. Just ask the Hoboken bar.
Yeah, call into the bar, see what everyone's opinion was.
A bar in Hoboken is voted. They caucused 51, 49%. No good.
There was there was a cockroach that pulled up like a second before that play happened. Could ask the cockroach what he thought if he had an opinion on the play. I didn't think anyone had the ball. So like, I didn't think it was totally fair. I just didn't think there was enough evidence to say it was a catch. It kind of feels like it's this procedural thing that the officials always try to call it a touchdown. I don't know what their process is, but they try to always call it a touchdown so that they can review it so that they don't get scorned as badly if they have to say it was one. I will say though with this Miami team, and this is another like total coach speak cliche, but I feel like great teams always find a way to win when they're playing just really poorly. That was a messy game for Miami. And you just depicted all the Cam Ward mistakes that he had. It's a part of the Cam Ward experience. I've been tracking this kid since he was at Incarnate Word. He is able to do some unbelievable things. There's a reason why he's now in the conversation for this first overall pick in this upcoming year. But God, he takes some crazy risks and he does not protect the football very well. You got to be ready for the lows, the low lows that come with the tremendous highs of these layered throws that he's able to hit across the field. If they can just eliminate some of those mistakes, and I don't know what percentage of that is, they're going to maintain this trajectory of being the best team in the ACC. I think that I just feel like right now, I don't know where you guys sit on this. Even when they played at their worst against Virginia Tech, who's still a quality ACC opponent, I feel like nobody else is really separated except for maybe Clemson amongst the top ACC squads.
Yeah, little old Clemson. I mean, they've absolutely stomped everybody since that Georgia game. And, I have no idea really what happened in that game. I mean, they looked so inept offensively, and now they're just jack stomping everybody. So I could see those two teams being there at the end. Although the league is pretty darn interesting. I mean, we do have Miami going to Cal next week for an ACC game. That's going to be the game day game.
First
I think
ever.
just for the hilarity of it. And then, SMU, not bad.
They pounded
Duke keeps
FSU.
finding ways to win games. Duke is pulling stuff out of where some people want to put a burrito.
Yeah. No.
And I
had to do it.
Shouldn't even go there.
We're not going to like that.
No.
That took a turn.
Yeah, that's gotten
That
really
took a turn.
unsettling.
Yeah.
But anyway, Miami and Clemson look like they're two heads and shoulders above the rest, but we'll see.
I thought it was, I didn't think he caught it. I thought the ball was moving the whole time. That was my opinion.
Yeah.
But it was, I didn't think it was as cut as dry as the announcers, but I could totally believe if someone wants to argue the other way, I'm not going to fight him on it. I was like, it's a really hard play. It was just a mess, but it did make sense. The out of bounds. I just think the ball was moving around. Heck of a play. All right. We'll be back right after this with more reaction. Joe, how about my break there, huh? Joe always wants me to go to break at the right times.
You're nailing it. The perfect timing here. I was instructed that we need to be like 25, 20. You nailed it. Couldn't have timed it up better.
Right.
Sometimes we have to tape them at the end because
I forget. I get excited.
Pat, don't reveal that. Don't give that away.
I want to know how the sausage is made around here. How the burrito gets
sausage
stuffed.
being made.
You don't want to know that. So awful,
Lord have
awful
mercy.
turn. It's just what is happening? All right.
Yeah.
I got to mention UNLV. Somehow UNLV's the national discourse is all about UNLV.
It's incredible.
59-14. They just hammer Fresno State. Moved to 4-0. They're ranked for the first time ever. Haj Malik Williams is their quarterback now. Threw for 182, rushed for 119, 4 touchdowns. And you probably never heard of him because he was in the considerable shadow of Matthew Sluka.
Considerable shadow.
So, days after the world ended because Matthew Sluka quit the UNLV football team, UNLV went out and won a football game. Sluka was supposedly, they claim he was promised $100,000 to play at UNLV. UNLV says, no, we didn't promise anyone $100,000. I don't know who to believe. It does not seem like UNLV has $100,000 to give to a guy who might be the backup quarterback.
Right.
because he didn't win the job until training camp. Circa Sports came out and said, we'll give Sluka the $100,000, but UNLV said, nah, he ain't on the team anymore. Some of the players are now saying, give the money to the offensive line. You're on the hook, Circa Sports.
Yeah, Circa going to have to put that money where their mouth was.
Yeah, that's got to go to the team. The team. Barry Odom, the coach, said, many have expressed very strong opinions about the events of the last week without full knowledge of the facts, without full knowledge of the events of last week, without full knowledge of the rules and the ever-changing, evolving NIL system. And incredibly, some have even used this circumstance as a platform for their own agendas. Charlie Baker basically says they followed all the rules and whatever. Who knows? But it's just continued over the past few days. We did discuss this last week. And the Pat made the point of how in the world the one guy quitting the UNL, I think you called it Flippin' V football team, became this. Charlie Baker, NCAA president, using the opportunity to call for federal legislation to stop this calamity. Evidence of dysfunction in today's NIL environment, including examples of promises made but not kept to student athletes. Charlie, you know that promise was made? Really? You sure about that?
Yeah, right.
Just as anyone that owns stocks or buys a house is afforded basic consumer protections, it's clear that student athletes entering NIL contracts should be too. Guess what, Charlie? They would be if they entered a contract. I'm sorry to beat this horse, but this just got painfully dumb. The kid didn't sign a contract for the $100,000. Some guy in Vegas promised Matthew Sluka $100,000. Maybe. How am I going to get the money? I don't know. They never really said. Okay. You took the deal. Yeah. All right. Good on you, son. Nick Saban calling for federal legislation. I mean, look, I love Nick Saban. You know why I love Nick Saban? His teams were about, and he listened to him. He when they released those videos, I'm talking to his team. Self-responsibility, discipline, learning your environment, taking advantage of opportunities, educating yourself on the process. We're going to make we need federal legislation because this guy didn't get his money, maybe. Matthew Sluka is 23 years old. He attended Pittee School in New Jersey, like an elite prep school.
Yeah.
$80,000 a year so your kid can go to Harvard and Yale. He graduated college at the College of Holy Cross, one of the best schools in the country. And we're acting like this kid's a moron who can't figure anything. Like, you're 23. There's not the federal government. Welcome to the gig economy. They don't need to protect every 23-year-old because you didn't make a deal. Like, this has gotten bananas.
Yeah, extreme paternalism here, and fear mongering and
nanny
hyperbole.
state.
Yeah.
Matthew Sluka needs protection. He's a 23-year-old man who has a college degree from one of the elite institutions in the country.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Who only made $3,000 playing Division I football in 3 weeks. The hardship.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been whining central. And guess what happened?
Boy.
UNLV had another guy play quarterback, and they won. Oh, my God. We better definitely...
The other guy was better.
Call Congress.
Yeah.
Charlie Baker's statement is all factually inaccurate.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. Trust us. I'll get you a deal. These are the same people that 5 years ago argued to the Supreme Court that if players received money for an academic award, it would ruin college athletics and its relationship with the fans. Fans would stop watching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They argued that if Caitlin Clark got to appear in a State Farm commercial, people would say, I can't watch Caitlin Clark anymore. Oh my God, Quinn Ewers was in that Dr. Pepper commercial. I'm not watching anymore. They argued this to the Supreme Court.
Oh, yeah.
Trust us, Charlie. Oh, Charlie Baker. Okay. Everyone mimicking this and acting like this is the biggest deal is just lost their marbles. One kid quit the team. He made a bad decision. It happens. He's 23 years old. He would have all the protections in the world if he had just signed a contract. He chose to go with a verbal promise.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pat.
That's the thing. And here's we had the Saban, Herb Street, sky is falling, on game day about this. And so the players have all the control. It's gone too far. They didn't have much control, but now they have all the control. No, they don't. And if you want more even control, then make them employees and let's have contracts and let's collectively bargain and have unions, and management and union can hammer this out. But they don't want that. They just want to sit around and go, oh my God, this is terrible. It's terrible. There's a way to fix it. They don't want it.
Weird question to ask here. Who holds Charlie Baker accountable? Because you bring up a really good point here, Dan, that, he's making statements like that. It seems like he's just reacting off of what the headline is. He can hold the coaches accountable. He can hold the universities accountable. Who holds him accountable?
He's a politician. Nobody.
Well,
he's a politician.
That's ridiculous.
That statement is absurd. You don't know this. He didn't specifically mention Sluka, including, he doesn't know. He doesn't know this. And he makes a false equivalency. Yes, if I buy a house, you ever bought a house? You have to sign 4 million pages of contracts. Yeah. Your hand hurts at the end of it. You go, I need less protection. I know there's no more free market anti-regulation person in America anymore. I get it. I'm on an island. But Charlie Baker used to be one of them. He was a hell of a governor, in my opinion, because of these very beliefs. What happened to you, Charlie? I'll give you this. Can the NCAA help Matthew Slukas of the world? Yeah, and you know what they did? And he does point this out in his statement. They have a whole app that the players should download. There is a template contract.
Yes.
You could say, hey, agent, hey, collective, why don't we use this? The NCAA has literally written the contract for me. There's a database where I can figure stuff out. Or you can sit there and go, I don't know, man. Some guy in Vegas kind of promised me this deal and it didn't work out. And you go, well, that's what happens when you're 23. You learn a little bit.
Again, the amount of hand wringing over this for people that's everybody wanted a face for this alleged, disaster of NIL and players being able to just walk away from teams, and they got it. And it was a very interesting topical story when a starting quarterback on an undefeated team walks, but there are 1,000 times bigger issues. Yeah,
there's 10,000 players. One guy walked. It's also the red shirt rule. Everyone's calling for well, what are you gonna do? Get rid of the red shirt rule? Okay, you're gonna get crushed on that. Now, I don't even know if you can enforce it, but anyway, it just got ridiculous over the weekend. People who know better, go look up Charlie Baker's political philosophy before he took over the NCAA. Trust us. You know how bad it'll be with Caitlin Clark if she's in a commercial? Oh my God, America will hate her. She drinks Gatorade.
We can't know that. We cannot.
This guy.
Haj Malik Williams, 301 total yards, man, and 4 touchdowns. I think Vegas is going to be okay.
They look great. They look great.
In fact, what they did, they reactivated Ricky White, their receiver, who's really good and hadn't done much this year because Matthew Sluka couldn't complete passes. Now he had 10 catches for 127 yards.
All right, quickly, Big 12 is fascinating right now. I'm going to start with Travis Hunter and Coach Prime. Pat, great job calling out that big UCF domination. That was it's like weeks of saying CU 48-21. I watched. Look, we all make bad picks. I somehow fell for Vegas.
That's incredibly bad pick.
That was a bad pick.
Exception.
Colorado looked nice. They look nice.
Really good.
And the line is playing a little better. They're 4-1. They got K-State at Arizona, Cincy at Tech, Utah at KU, which is at Arrowhead, and then Oklahoma State. Like, they could win 4 of those. They could win 5. I don't know what they're capable of doing. Shador's playing fantastic, and Travis Hunter. I love this kid. I think the movement is coming that he's going to win the Heisman. I really feel like, 9 catches, 89 yards, a touchdown, 2 tackles, 1 pass. They threw it 1 time in his direction and it got knocked down or whatever. He defended it. And then he had an incredible pick where he broke 7 yards on a ball on a guy he wasn't covering. It was very Will Johnson-esque, but maybe even more. He couldn't bring it for the pick 6. He got sniped at by Richard Sherman, the great cornerback, who called him a bland receiver on a podcast, which hurt Travis's feelings because he said he really looked up to Richard Sherman. He's kind of like, ouch. But then he walks out on the pregame field with a T-shirt that says bland. And by the end of the game, he's doing the Heisman pose.
Yeah.
And it was like Richard Sherman was ripping him, saying, "We'll see if you can play both ways." And both ways.
How do you rip Travis Hunter?
We're not playing 50 snaps on offense and 55 snaps on defense. Boy, those coordinators offense, they're going to test you. These quarterbacks are going to say, "Hey, let's see how in shape you are by the 4th quarter. We just saw you run 3 go routes. I'm about to bring our 3rd receiver in to run you 3 more go routes. And then let's go ahead and do work, baby." Okay, yes, that would be a problematic if he's playing 105 NFL snaps. Guess what? He isn't.
No.
So, But anyway, Colorado's a player. BYU looks excellent. Iowa State 4-0. Matt Campbell just became the winningest coach in the history of the Cyclone program. How about that for a stat? That's our Diag partner custom staffing solution stat of the week. I haven't brought those guys out in a while. Diag partner, custom staffing solution. Stat of the week. He's the winningest coach, beat Dan McCarney, 57th win. He's only been there 9 years. He's 44 years old. Tell you about Iowa State's history. Texas Tech is 2-0 in the league, 4-1. They beat Cincy. K-State, big return game. I don't know what's going to happen in this league. We didn't know before. 5 weeks in, I still don't know.
No, it's fascinating. It really is. And yes, the ongoing vigil of whether Cam Rising will play or not play, and the Utah offense is ground down and getting nothing done. Got beat by 13 points by Arizona. So yes, wide open league. Wide open at this point. BYU is a revelation. Not much expected out of them, but they've been really good so far. Jewish quarterback at a Mormon school, Jake Retzlaff, playing well there and taking advantage of their opportunities. They had to hold on to beat Baylor, but they jumped up big on them, and it is totally wide open. I will address, yes, it's funny, the Central Florida, when I said on this podcast that Central Florida will crush Colorado. That came at the end of a long hosanna about Colorado and how fun and exciting and interesting and, They don't clip guess
that part.
What got clipped?
They don't clip that part. Okay.
Yeah. But I was completely dead wrong. Colorado showed up. They were ready. No letdown after the miracle win over Baylor. As you said, Dan, their line play on both sides is much better. They have put together just a better team year over year. Coach Prime did a good job. Even though everybody's like, "Oh my God, the roster turnover, so many players leave, and they're not going to have anything." Yeah, they got a better team, better coached. It seems like better players, more solid. They've got some stars, but they've got some weak areas, but they don't have the glaring weaknesses. It doesn't look like that they had last year. So they're going to be must-watch TV for the foreseeable future, as they have been, because they've got star power and they've got elite players at some areas. And in that league, why not? I'm going to be fascinated just to watch them and see where this thing goes.
I'm excited for the Kansas State-Colorado game that we're getting in a couple of weeks. I feel like with this annoying charade that we get every single week with Whittingham and Cam Rising. It happened the entirety of last year. Oh, is he hurt? Is he not hurt? What's wrong with his hand? Is it wrapped up? Is it not wrapped up? He's got an infection. He doesn't have an infection. I'm almost going to kind of push them aside until he gets back onto the field. They're a completely different team with him and without him. It's so tough for Isaac Wilson, who had to throw the ball 40 times against Arizona, and they completely bailed on trying to run the ball with Bernard. That made no sense to me in that approach. But like right now, I think that Kansas State's the best team. I think they just stepped into what was a horrible road environment to try and rally after making a couple of mistakes. All it was a couple of mistakes that really, really snowballed into what was a terrible game for them. We were reminded what they can be against Oklahoma State. I said that when we gave our picks, is that Oklahoma State run defense, not very good. This is one of the best rushing attacks in the country if they're on and they're moving forward and everything's going according to plan. They're going to run all over Colorado. I right now think that that is the separation point where we start to see, okay, Kansas State starts to declare themselves as the best Big 12 team. But the chaos is appreciated, though. I think that if you're your mark and you're looking at this conference, that's what you want. You want it to get down to week 10 and for us to still not know who the team is. You don't want to have Texas be the clear-cut favorite like they were every single year for a long period of time. The chaos is fun. I'm all for this. It's insane. I don't think we're going to know for a while and who's going to win it.
Yeah. I mean, you do want the chaos, but you also would like multiple teams to look like playoff teams, and that's where chaos can be your enemy.
Yeah,
that's true.
We will see. It's fun. The league is fun right now. We'll be back with some of the ranked on ranked quick hits and finish up the show. All right, couple ranked games, ranked on ranked. Pat, what are your thoughts? Penn State, they didn't cover. It was close. Illinois is a gritty pain in the neck to play, but win's a win. Penn State.
Yep. Yeah, no, if you're Penn State, you take it happily. That game went kind of how I thought it was going to go. I thought the line was way too large at 17.5. And Illinois is exactly that. They are a pain in the ass. They, can shorten a game. They're good on defense. They make you work for everything you can get. And that's kind of the way it transpired. But I thought that, Penn State's defense played extremely well. Boy, they got after Luke Altmaier. Made life miserable for him, especially in the second half. And they ran the ball and ran it with their two-headed running back monster. It's really good. Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. It's combined 34 carries, 197 yards, 196. And if you can just keep doing that and get some throws from Drew Aller, he is never going to be Michael Penix back there, but he can do enough, I think, as long as you can run the ball. We'll see, when he gets down to playing some truly elite opponents, but I kind of like the mix that Penn State has put together at this point.
Joe, thoughts on Notre Dame? Excellent defensive effort, kind of jumping all over Louisville, beating Louisville. They needed that win to, I think, stay in contention. I think at 11-1, they're still a playoff team, even with the NIU loss. So they needed to win. They did. I thought they looked really good. Your thoughts?
Yeah, they're not really in control of their destiny at the current moment because they need to pray that, which Notre Dame fans do a great job of doing that. They need to pray that Louisville finishes the year as a ranked team, that Texas A&M finishes the year within that ranked conversation, maybe 25 or one of the first teams out. And they need to hope that USC gets through the remaining stretch of their schedule. They get maybe that Penn State win to bolster their resume. But we were reminded that even though that their defensive line was dealing with injuries, that they're still a really strong unit. They'll get after the passer. Their secondary creates turnovers. I think what the separation point is now with Notre Dame, they're actually starting to show some semblance of an offensive identity. We started to get this picture for when a team with a front seven as good as Louisville's takes away Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, their lead running backs, can Riley Leonard create plays in the passing game? And it resulted in massive, wide open receivers for him to connect with. Greathouse was one of the big plays that they had in the end of this game. If they can continue to do that on a week-to-week basis, I don't see why they shouldn't run the table on their schedule, but that is expecting a lot and giving a lot of grace to Marcus Freeman that he's not going to create another game where they come out extremely flat. They play Navy, they play Army, who look pretty good this year. There's a chance Navy maybe could be ranked at the end of the year. They need to finish strong though. They can't have any more slow starts like they had against Central Michigan and against NIU.
Yeah, well, they did get a boost with Texas A&M holding off Arkansas, and USC coming back big on Wisconsin. I mean, that was going to be that was going to get ugly for those. So those are two games that those two teams needed to win. Will help their schedule. Pat, Ole Miss finally plays somebody. It's Kentucky, and the offense is no longer scoring 72 points. Now, Kentucky's defense, I mean, look, they held Georgia to 13, right? Was that 13-12? Something like that?
Yes.
So it's formidable, but thoughts on the Rebels yesterday?
Until I've seen enough proof otherwise, Lane Kiffin remains an unserious coach to me. This is another example of, what was he doing earlier this week? He was sniping at Hugh Freeze. Was he listening to his name being brought up at Florida? I don't know. But you bring Kentucky into the Grove and you've supposedly got this offensive juggernaut and you're supposedly better on the lines than you've ever been, and you lay a giant egg. And I will say Kentucky absolutely is a good defensive team. But 17 points? I mean, that's not very good. 92 yards rushing, 29 carries. I just don't see proof that Lane Kiffin can build a team, sustain a team, win the games you're supposed to win, and maybe a game or two you're not supposed to win, and compete for a championship.
Joe, Oklahoma goes to Auburn and gets their first SEC victory. Obviously, they lost last week against Tennessee. Auburn had the lead. They outgained them. Turnovers again, pick six, the whole thing. Thoughts on that one?
Speaking of another unserious coach, I mean, I can't imagine looking at this Auburn situation and thinking that there's really much recoverability for them. This is a game they have to win. You're going up against an Oklahoma team that was incredibly banged up coming into it. I think they were down multiple receivers, a number of defenders. You're at home and you had the lead. They had every reason to win that game into the fourth quarter. And it's almost hilarious. I went back and rewatched the highlights for that one I wasn't solely focused on it when the games were happening and I was kind of keeping track of it, but I wanted to see what I might have missed. It's ridiculous if you stop it right to that point where Peyton Thorne throws the pick six. It's like insane to wrap your head around how they gave up that lead and how they let them get back into it. I feel like the way that Hugh Freeze has handled his roster and the way that he's talked about his players, with him throwing his guys under the bus, I absolutely hated that as a former player. I think that's ridiculous. I think that is, I don't care if guys are making money. You do not throw your players under the bus that way. I wouldn't be shocked if the wheels don't start coming off of this. And I don't know what to agree. I don't think that they're going to fire him at the end of the year. I don't think they're going to pull up Brian Harsin because he's recruiting at a pretty high level. But man, I can't imagine being in that locker room right now. I would love to know what those players are saying.
Well, blowing an 11-point lead in last 8 minutes of a fourth quarter. The wheels are off, man. The wheels are off. You got
a team that has a really flailing offense.
Yeah.
Too.
But I felt like somebody needed that. It was like desperation. Like somebody needed that win. Because Oklahoma didn't want to go 0-2. I think they got Texas coming up. I mean, all that. All right, look, they hand out the Heisman at the end of the year, of course. We like to hand it out each week. So, Joe, do you have a small sample Heisman winner?
Oh, yes, I do, Dan. This is as niche and specific as we possibly could get. I dug deep for this one. I'm not going Ashton Jeanty. I'm not going with any of these guys that had big numbers. No, I'm turning to Central Arkansas versus Lamar, 34-14. Central Arkansas wins this game. And I got to give a shout out. This is the stupidest reasoning I could possibly give. Will McElwain, who's the starting quarterback for Central Arkansas, had an okay game, 15 for 22, 158 yards, touchdown, interception. Was fine. Had a couple of carries, 2 for 10 yards. He had a 64-yard punt. That's why I'm giving him the small sample Heisman. You have to give credit for a quarterback who can punt the ball 60 yards. That's better than most FCS punters. I played on teams and snapped the guys who had averages that were hovering around 30, which is abysmal. I got to give some credit here. Great, hell of a punt by McElwain.
A guy who long snaps. This is where
exactly
gravitates to that.
Okay, that's what we're here for.
All right, okay. I think I got somebody now.
Okay.
I'm going with Miller Moss from USC, who, I mean, things looked pretty bad for a bit there. And they're down 21-10 and kind of looks like the wheels are starting to come off and would be a very bad way to start the Big Ten era 0-2, losing at home to a Wisconsin team that isn't that good. And Miller Moss got it back together and had, I thought, a heck of a game. 30 for 45 for 308 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also ran for a score on a 4th and short in which he went airborne and landed. It's really pretty scary. I thought kind of whiplashed the back of his head against the turf, and I hope he was adequately checked out and allowed to keep playing because he did keep playing. But I thought at a time like the LSU game when USC needed their quarterback to play extremely well or the game was going to be lost, Miller Moss did so.
Listen, I think we can do this every week for Boise State's Ashton Genty.
Yes, please do.
Just pick them in the first round of your NFL fantasy draft next year on Yahoo Sports, because the little rankings aren't going to be up on them. 26, 259, 4 touchdowns, and Boise State beat the Cougs 45-24. This guy is just ridiculous. He's just so good, and he's so much fun to watch. So that was it, but I'm not giving it to him. I'll give him a little hype. I'm going with a little plucky underdog backup quarterback who happened to go 26-31 for 324 yards, 2 touchdowns as he fills in for an injured starter. He also ran for 33 yards and another touchdown. Little old Arch Manning. Little old Arch. Yeah. Led little old Longhorns 35-13. This is their backup in an era where there's no depth. Oh, my. That's your backup. I mean, he smoked him. Arch Manning looks really good. And so I'm giving him the small sample Heisman so I can create, hopefully, a quarterback controversy. Can we get one? There's nothing media vultures like myself enjoy more than a good old quarterback controversy. Who should start, Quinn or Arch? Quinn's got the small sample Heisman. I mean, that alone ought to do it. What do you got, Sark?
You mean Arch does, yes.
Arch. Who did I say?
Yes.
Quinn?
You said Quinn.
Whatever. Doesn't matter. They're both good.
I'm totally here for a Texas quarterback controversy. Why not? It's also the kind of thing that like an unserious coach like Lane Kiffin would allow to derail an undefeated team. But
anyway.
It's an unserious podcast would have tried to attempt.
Very true.
All right.
Foment the revolution.
We've said mean things, Pat, mostly today. But that's for me too, probably. Yeah, I think I did. Joe's been nice.
Joe
hasn't been nice.
I came at Hugh. I came at Tommy Rees, who's not even coaching college football.
Yeah. We're not nice
anymore.
Anyway, we're going to try to say something nice. Maybe. Anyone got anything nice to say? Did anyone think anything nice?
I have something legitimately nice to say.
All right, let's do it.
Yes. Ended up writing about this Saturday morning. The East Tennessee State Buccaneers, who endured flood, stranding, information blackout, almost begged for food, basically, from an Ingalls in the mountains of western North Carolina, and eventually made their way, after being stuck for more than 12 hours off the highway during the devastation and flooding from Hurricane Helene in the mountains of Appalachia, to Charleston to play the Citadel on Saturday. Trey Lamb, the coach, I talked to him Saturday morning. He was in a very good mood despite everything they went through. They barely got out of town. Johnson City, Tennessee. Hard by the border of North Carolina. Tough, mountainous, remote area. They barely got out before the highway got washed away. Then they got stuck off of Interstate 26 in Fletcher, North Carolina. And eventually, cell service gone, internet service gone. Buses had to be taken to high ground. They ended up near a homeless shelter by the Asheville airport. They thought they were going to have to spend the night there. But a couple of coaches who had gone to use a restroom at a gas station met a guy who then gave them a ride to a hotel that had wireless service so they could communicate. But that guy then comes back to their buses at 1:30 in the morning, knocks on the door and says, "Hey, the interstate's now open. You guys got to go win a game." And so they get the buses going, They get to Charleston, South Carolina at 4:30 in the morning. They eat Waffle House that they ordered at the hotel. They go to sleep for a few hours. And then what do? They beat the ass off of the Citadel, 34-17. Trey
Awesome.
Lamb, phenomenal. In tears afterwards, thanking the bus drivers, thanking everyone. It was a great scene. Terrible, awful situation in Appalachia right now. North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, etc. So prayers out to those people. But a wonderful bit of perseverance and some real, I think, togetherness from the East Tennessee Buccaneers to win the game.
I couldn't imagine being stuck on those buses. Those buses after like 4 hours start to stink up with how packed in everybody is. I credit to those guys for fighting through that. My say something nice as an Italian. I have to bring up two Italian coaches right now who are 2-0, and that's Kurt not 2-0. Sorry, they're both undefeated on the season, 5-0. Kurt Signetti, who is the head coach of Indiana, who kicked my ass when I was at Rhode Island, when he was at Elon and he was at JMU, and Greg Schiano, who is 5-0 at Rutgers with a win over Washington. It's crazy to think that both of those programs are two of the better teams in the Big Ten, and I'm just really excited to see who finishes the best amongst that grouping. There's potential that Rutgers, with this light schedule, which you guys have mentioned on the show before, could be like 9-3, 8-4 at the end of the year. They don't play Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State, so got to give some love to those guys.
I'll do you one better on that, because I agree. Let me read you off the rest of Indiana's schedule.
Yeah.
Indiana, if they weren't named Indiana, okay, you could give these results to Ohio State. They beat FIU 31-7. They beat Western Illinois 77-3. They go to at UCLA 42-13. They beat Charlotte 52-14. Maryland 42-28. Like this looks like these are the scores of a really good team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not great teams, but whatever. 5-0.
Yeah,
they're at Northwestern and that little stadium they got.
Yeah, the pop-up stadium.
They get Nebraska at home. They get Washington at home. They go to Michigan State, who I actually think played pretty well against Ohio State. Didn't end up well. Then they got Michigan. And then they got an off week on November 16th. Any of those games you're sitting there saying Indiana's losing?
No. I mean,
Michigan
said that.
Michigan at home. Michigan's 10th in the country, but they shouldn't be, or whatever they came out. I don't know what. But.
Yeah. No. I mean, like Michigan, Ohio State, you look at and say they should lose those games, but
I don't know about then. Michigan. Yeah, even Michigan. They could be 9-0.
They could be 9-0. Indiana football
10-0.
9-0.
10-0.
I mean,
they get 9-0 going into Michigan, who they get at home. Michigan does not look like a great football team. They're winning. All credit to winning. 4-1, but they could be 10-0 and at Ohio State November 23rd.
That would be the most ridiculous, huge game imaginable. For Indiana to be 10-0.
I'm not
playoff hopes on the line.
Hard to do. Yeah. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm not looking at that slate going, well, they're going to need a lot of luck.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. How's that?
It's amazing.
I'm going to say something nice about Duke. Duke football is 5-0. And they didn't look like they were going to be 5-0 midway through the third quarter. They're losing 20-0 to North Carolina, arch rival. Looks like Carolina righted the ship after the disaster against James Madison, particularly defensively. They gave up, how many did they give up? 70 or something?
70
to James Madison. They're shutting out Duke. But the gritty Blue Devils, touchdown, and they win it 21-20. Huge comeback victory. 5-0. Manny Diaz in his first year. Big question. Could he maintain what Mike Elko had built that had made Duke a competent and then some football program in the ACC? So far, so good. Can't do better than 5-0. This was a big win, and this is a big win in the standings on where you're going to end up at the end. I don't know if they're a playoff contender. I don't know if they can hang with Clemson and Miami, but so far, they're good. And a little bit of a fun bit, Mac Brown, UNC coach, once fired Manny Diaz when he was defensive coordinator at Texas.
Yep.
Now, poor Mac at this point has had so long of a history.
Yeah, right.
And Mac
He's
probably
hired and fired almost everybody else.
Yeah. I used to work with that guy. I don't even know all these people. He probably did it very politely. Probably was very nice. Well, Sally and I think we could do a little better on defense. Sally said we got
Manny, love you. Love you, Manny.
Yeah, it's probably very polite and nice. But whatever. The guy fired you. You come back. He's beating your ass again because he beat him a bunch when Manny was the coach at Miami. And finally, you get your revenge. Duke 5-0 beats Carolina. We got plenty of time for basketball season. Who needs Cooper Flag? We got the football team. I don't know.
Right.
Go Duke. Fan favorites, Duke. All right, that's our show. Joe, great job, buddy.
Thanks, Dan.
Ross.
I don't even remember who the Ross was ever part of this show.
Who was the third host?
Wally Pip. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep.
Wally
That's right.
Pip.
Ross's services are no longer needed.
Yeah.
Except for important context on really complicated, the actual issues that are talked about on this show. I don't have any sourcing.
You
so
describe the house case.
Yeah.
We'll keep Ross around. But good job, Joe. Good job. I would get
Thank
nervous. Hot seats out there. Let's just put it that way.
That's
Hot
right.
seats.
I'll call my agent.
Thank you for subscribing. We'll be back Tuesday. Talk more issues and another exciting week ahead. College football. Talk to you later.